I'm Sharon. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Just recently I went to the opera. I went to see Glyndebourne's touring version of Rigoletto. I used to go very often when the children were small. We'd sort of scrimp and save and make sure we could go and take them. And then for some reason Glyndebourne stopped coming to our local city. I'm not sure what that says about our sort of approach to opera. However, one fortunate thing about living in the Midlands is that we can pretty much get anywhere from where we are. And so we saw that Glyndebourne were at Liverpool, and so we thought, well, let's go. It's about 50 miles from us, so it's sort of well within driving distance. And actually, because we live so high up, it's quite interesting that if we look out of our window on a clear day or a clear evening, we can see the Liverpool Cathedral spire from our back window. We can also see the Radio City Tower, and so it's sort of well within travelling distance, about an hour away, not considering city traffic. However, we got there in good time. We had a little mooch around Liverpool 1 and sort of took in the city sights, and we even managed to squeeze in a meal at this marvellous Italian restaurant. It seemed appropriate. If we're going to see an Italian opera, we should eat Italian, and we were on a time schedule, of course, because we got to be at the Liverpool Empire Theatre for about 7 o'clock, and so we only had time for one hasty course, which seems rather against the spirit of an Italian meal, but nevertheless it was delicious. We went to Ask Italian. I do recommend that. It was just beautiful food. And so, of course, now it's time to go to the opera. And music always gives us something new. There's always something new to hear, something new to learn. However, this one particular performance gave me lots of food for thought. It really, really did open my eyes. And that's before I even get to the music. Interestingly, there is a dress code with Glyndebourne. If you go to their home, the home of Glyndebourne, it's formal dress. They even provide changing rooms so you can get yourself into your glad rags ready to go to the opera. That's certainly a life goal, I think. But if it's on the touring version, just where they're going around the country, they suggest sort of a smart casual. So you'd think, well, you know, jeans and a shirt, you know, nice jacket, skirt, just sort of semi-casual, smart-ish. However, when I got to the theatre, it really surprised me how every day the audience sort of was dressed, and I was quite shocked at first. And my first reaction was a little bit of maybe snobby disapproval, where I saw somebody going into the auditorium wearing gym leggings. And I thought, goodness, you know, that's a bit of a shame if you can't sort of smarten up. And then actually I had to sort of second guess myself and just check those reactions. And I thought, well, no, I think that's amazing. The fact that opera is so normal and everyday to people's lives. It's like, oh, I've been to the gym and I think I'll just pop to the opera now. And that really, really challenged my sort of initial prejudice. And it's like, no, I think it's brilliant that people are actually going to see the opera. And that theme continued throughout the show, because actually it was a modern day adaptation of Rigoletto, and it was set in 1930s, 40s dress, and sort of set on the Hollywood movie stage, as it were. And at first I was a little bit disappointed, thinking, oh, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this quite so much, because I absolutely love the sumptuous costumes. But again, that thought was challenged, and actually the fact that it was in this sort of vintage period style and the way it was set, it really, really brought the message home. The whole tragedy of the play was really highlighted by this new setting and this different dress. It really was quite profound. In Rigoletto, the character Rigoletto himself is the court jester, like the fool. And so they'd set him as Charlie Chaplin, and there were lots of Charlie Chaplin references. There was a few nods to Laurel and Hardy. And the Duke was the film director who was the sort of the root of all evil, as it were. And the fact that it was set in that sort of scene really brought it home, especially when now we think of today's sort of modern understanding, and we've got much more openness to mental health and depression. And when you think that Charlie Chaplin himself was quite depressed, many comedians are, you know, they're always hiding behind this smile. And still sharp in my memory is the tragic suicide of Robin Williams. And so this sort of film set comedian, instead of the court jester, made it much more profound. And I think I could take in the message of the tragedy much more deeply now that there weren't the stereotypical sort of bass and tenor walking around with a basket of fruit on the head kind of thing. It made it much more sort of tangible, the message was. And really, it also, some of the scenes did show that awful herd mentality where people get really hurt when the whole crowd thing is doing something just for a laugh. And the whole premise of the play is the Duke and Rigoletto end up being cursed by the Count for seducing his daughter. And he curses them, and Rigoletto really takes this curse to heart. It's interesting to note that the Duke doesn't. He's completely unabashed by it all. And so you wonder, is it tragedy or is it poetic justice that this awful thing at the end happens regarding Rigoletto's daughter? Or was he kind of a victim right from the start? Because it's interesting that the Rigoletto really took this curse to heart and it sort of haunted his whole life, whereas the Duke wasn't bothered and just carried on with his shocking behaviour. So I think there's sort of lots there for me to think about, and the fact that it was in this 1940s dress, 30s, 40s dress, which is it's a beautiful sort of fashion period anyway, so it was still enjoyable, even just aesthetically, but it really did bring that message home. And actually still we haven't got to the music. There was still more to really, really enjoy in the text, the libretto, and the setting and the production of the music, because apparently Verdi always wanted to set an opera to the story of King Lear. And the question is, actually, is this Rigoletto play kind of a reflection of that? And if you look really deeply into it, there are lots of references to King Lear. Now, I don't know so much about King Lear specifically. I mean, of course, there's the Count haunting throughout the whole proceedings, but there were references to ghostly figures holding skull in hand. There were Knights of Tempest, there's mistaken identity, there's tragic teenage lovelorn death, there's loads of Shakespeare just thrown in there, so that if you wanted to sort of take a literary sort of analysis of the opera, there's loads there to just get your teeth into. And still we haven't got to the music. So let's get to the music now. And of course it's just divine. If you went there and thought of nothing else but just let the fabulous tunes just wash over you, you've certainly got your money's worth. And we certainly got our money's worth because we were right up in the gods and we got the El Cheapo seats. So it was absolute value for money for us. And it was composed at the height of Verdi's popularity. It was at the stage in his career where he's quite comfortable with his craft. He's creating marvellous tunes just left, right and centre. And you might think, oh, well, I'm really not into opera and I certainly don't know what Rigoletto is, but I bet you'll just know some of these arias and these tunes. They're so famous. In fact, I noticed that this exam period, the famous aria of the Duke, La Donna Immobile, is actually set as a grade 1 flute piece as an arrangement, and an arrangement of it is set as a piano piece for grade 1 as well. So it just shows the timeless quality of these memorable tunes. So it was just such a fabulous occurrence. It was a fabulous evening. It was a marvellous day, and it's one of those sort of evenings that just keeps on giving. So yes, I enjoyed the music, but there was so much more to it, so much more thought-provoking material that it's just kept me thinking from then on afterwards. And I realised, of course, that not everybody can just pop off to the opera. It was a massive treat for us, and as I say, we sort of went up into the El Cheapo seats right up in the gods. But you know, we've got so much at our fingertips nowadays, and we can just pop onto YouTube and you can see the whole opera just online. And so there's nothing stopping you just sort of having a look into it, see what you think about is it a tragedy? Well, I mean, it is a tragedy, whichever way you look at it. But is it, oh, poor old Rigoletto, what a shame for him? Or is it, well, you got your just desserts because you were joining in with the trouble and mayhem at the beginning and you brought this on yourself? I think as well, it does bring into question, I mentioned about that crowd mentality where we do things for a laugh. Bear in mind, Rigoletto was a court jester. He was a fool. He was expected to sort of go along with whatever the Duke said. And if you look at that in the film setting, you know, the actors, the film director who stands in as the Duke, you know, he's the boss, and who knows what sort of coercion can take place just to fit in and go along with these things. So was he a victim right at the very beginning? You know, he had to do his job and he had to sort of go along with these things, even though his conscience troubled him back then, maybe. So I do hope that you'll look into this a little bit further. There's so much to think about. Have a look on the Glyndebourne website. I've put links in the cards and the descriptions of all the different tunes that you might know, the arias, the absolutely marvellous quartet. This is just so famous. And although it's quite a sort of touchy, awkward situation, you know, we've got intrigue and deceit going on, but the quartet, the music is actually quite joyous. You can kind of miss the sad element to it if you just get immersed into the music, really. So I've put the links in the cards. Have a look, make your own mind up, let me know what you think. I do hope that you've enjoyed this little chat and I look forward to next time. Bye.